What's going on, everyone? This is Justin with LUN Studios. Today we're going to be going over how to get the perfect mask every single time. And we're also going to be going over the 3 ways that you would typically mask in Adobe After Effects. Stick around. So for anyone that's done any kind of composite work, you know masking is like the lifeblood of pretty much making any magic happen. So when it comes to masking in After Effects, there's 3 general ways to do it. The first one is your very basic, straightforward, create a shape. Here, let's do this real quick. Let's just call this mask. Boom, we got our shape here on the surface, and we wanna just maybe make a little vignette in front of it. Better yet, let's do this. I like making vignettes this way. I hate using the vignette effect. I hate it. So let's get a black in the foreground. Boop. Cool. Do a little Control Y, make some shapes. And let's hold down Control so we can center it. Okay. Boom, whatever. Good, good, good. Let's do subtract. See, the reason I like doing it this way is because you can just feather. You can expand. Let's feather it some more. Let's drop that opacity. Look at that, boom. So that's obviously the first way you can mask. Second way you can mask is my least favorite way you can mask. I call it the lazy person's way of masking. Now I get it, you're in a rush, you really just want to get this shape made, you don't want to have to deal with vectors. You can use things like a transparent PNG. Okay, so to test the auto trace, I wouldn't say test, let's bring in, just gonna bring in the LUN logo. LUN, if you will, right? Now, we want to auto trace it. So you go to Layer, Auto Trace. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to create a rather pretty close representation of the different shapes in the actual PNG. So if you don't want to have to deal with vectors and you're working with a PNG or some sort of transparent image, this can save you a great deal of time. Now, while I don't normally use it, I don't normally have to trace PNGs. I'm not saying I've never had to do it, but hey, these things happen. So tracing PNGs, if you have a client that maybe they have a logo that they don't have the Illustrator file for, or the EPS or anything like that, which typically I try and get a hold of that if they possibly can. Or I'll even take the time just to recreate the logo, because at the end of the day, if you're trying to do any form of logo animation or intro, and you need to isolate those elements to, say, maybe make it 3D or extrude it in any way, doing it this way is just going to make your life very hard, especially since this is really a flat representation of my logo. But basically you have some minimal, you have the tolerance, threshold, etc. If you do things like increase the threshold, it might bow out some of the curves and get less detailed in the corners. Same thing, or the tolerance, I should say, not the threshold. Threshold itself will actually be more of the what it grabs onto in case there's any kind of variance and contrast. So if you have grays, if you have white to black and then there's gray in between, any kind of variance and contrast will kind of, the tolerance will help you control that. So we could do it that way. Good, great, grand. Our logo now has these nice masks already drawn out for us, right? So let's zoom in here. Wow, it's pretty straightforward, but this is also a relatively rudimentary shape with little to no detail. Now, as you can see in a PNG, you're going to get these little pixelation. PNG, you're going to get this little pixelation effect, simply because it's not vector. You're not getting the information you need. And I can even see right here, there's a bow. Look at this. See the arms? Yeah, there's a bow there. So this is why I don't typically like using auto trace, and why I call it the lazy way of doing it. Now, the third method, the third tried and true, I promise you, this is how you get perfect masks every single time. Take the time to get your vectors together. Take the time to separate your layers. Take the time to really break down a logo. Here's a logo that I grabbed just off of Shutterstock. We're gonna use this one right here. This eagle, the bottom eagle head, the flat one. I'll do a sample probably at the end of the video, a run through of separating elements in a way that you could use them in the future. So we'll go with this. And we'll bring that on in here. So we want to import that. Now, when you import, you can import the Illustrator file directly. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to import it as a composition. Okay, so you can't change these fields. Document size, hit OK. So now what this is going to do is you're going to get a scene that already has the layers in it, and then you'll have these separated layers. So this is why I say, going back to here, this is why I say it's good to separate the two things, because it'll make your life a lot easier when you're organizing your files, or your layers, I should say. So we're going to take Eagle Flat, boom. Let's bring it on in here. Let's get rid of our auto trace nonsense here. All right, so we're going to blow this up. Blow it up. I'm going to fit the screen here. Boom, perfect. Let's lock our other layers. Okay, now let's start by creating shapes from the vector layer. So you're going to right click, hit create shapes from vector layer. Now you're going to get 2 layers. Now we're looking already, what's going on here? It totally just kind of like mucked it up here. Don't worry about it. We're going to fix that. You can delete our Adobe Illustrator layer. You want to go into the contents and the group of these paths, okay? This is very important. So we have 5 paths here. So what I'm going to do, we're going to hit Control-Shift-N 5 times. That's going to make 5 new masks. And we're going to connect all of these paths with all of these masks. Now this step is very important when you're trying to get the shape you need as well as the placement. Starting out on the same layer will actually keep these guides, these lines here, visible while you're trying to realign. And we're gonna show you why it's important in a second. So first path, first mask, here's what we do. I'm gonna pick whip the path. Boom, all right? A couple things happened here. Okay, first thing, little shape guy turned red. Second thing, we now have an expression. Okay? Where's our shape? Where'd it go? Very first thing, this is very important. Click shape, then click OK. You don't have to worry about it. Go into your expression for that path, delete it, and click out of it. Now, when you select the path, oh, what's this up here? Oh, what's that? What's that? Looks like it's our first path. Okay, you're going to want to drag it over to line that up as best as you can. Beautiful. Okay, we could lock that for now. First path done. All right, I'm going to run through the next few. So again, pick whip the path to the path. Click shape. Hit OK. Drop down to view the expression. Delete the expression. Boom. Now the reason why that step is super important is because if you don't delete the expression, you're going to have a very hard time trying to control the actual mask itself, just due to the nature of how the expression updates based on the path. So you're going to want to break that. And the nice thing about when you... Here, let's go into the next one. I'll show you. The nice thing that's good about connecting the path to the path, when you hit shape, and then you hit OK, what you've just done is you've saved that instance of the shape without any other interaction to the layer affecting the expression. So when you go in and you delete the expression, now it's not going to cue what it's pick whipped to. So we're going to go back. Okay, we got mask 3 right up here. And I'm not sure exactly why it orients to up here every single time you do it, but just be aware if you're doing this with your shapes and your layers, zoom out a little bit. It might just be out of your little realm of vision, if you will. Okay, this seems like a little off. Perfectionism. That's fine. Okay. Okay, that's mask 3. Let's go to mask 4. Pick, whoop. I always do this. I forget to drop down. And now, remember, if you're a stickler for labeling your stuff, do it. Absolutely label. Like if you want to label this one mask the eye, or this other mask the eagle head, or this mask the frame, or what have you, by all means do it. And if you didn't think you clicked shape, just do it one more time. It's not going to hurt, because this can get pretty monotonous if you do it enough, especially if you're dealing with dozens of these little masks. And obviously, it can be much more time-consuming when you're working on individual layers with dozens of different elements to them. You can find ways to group your masks together in a way that's a little more efficient in control. Say if all the masks react in the same way, if they're all the same color, if they're detailed shapes, what have you, then you're going to want to keep them together. But just go with that. Okay, mask path 5. Now here's the last detail that's very important. Whoops. Make sure, also side note, make sure when you're going to move your mask that you're actually selecting the mask and not your frame to your other shape. Oh, I just done and goofed. There we go. I accidentally adjusted it. All right, so that looks to be good enough. So now, wow, this looks like poop. What are we gonna do? So the important thing to note, especially in a shape like this, as you see the eagle head, right? It's connected into the border. In an instance where you don't have a shape connected, say like this little nostril in the beak, it's not connected, so it floats just fine. But when you have a connection to two elements that are actually supposed to be sharing negative space, or the opposite, then what you actually have to do is go in, select that layer, hit difference. Boom. Now, all your other regions, oh, let's see this one. All right, so the pink one's off, so we're going to want to subtract. You're basically just going to want to play with the add subtract difference in order to find the sweet spot. But eventually, you will get there. And voila. So you might be wondering, what purpose do I have for this? A few things, okay? First and foremost, you're not going to get that weird rounded edging that you saw with the auto trace. This is going to get it as close as possible because you're taking a vector and you're marrying it with a vector. When the mask can read the proper vector shape, it's going to translate in the same exact shape as you put as the input. So, and as you may or may not know, vectors be on point. Pun intended. All right, let's translate this into something a little more than just, oh hey, we did the thing. So let's bring in a shape, Control Y. Let's do just do element actually. Let's make this a little interesting. You don't have to do this if you don't have Element 3D. I'm just using this as an example. So you can use our little board here. We're gonna put element on that. This is simply one example. You do not require this plugin to use that masking technique. Oh, before we do that, okay, we're going to go into our custom layers, text, mask. All right, so we just made the mask, right? So let's select our eagle mascot mask. Now when we go into element, boom. We can now extrude it as one piece, doing its thing. And now you can go in, you can do all your little, your textures, and you can give it like an emerald color. Ooh, look at it. It's all textury and stuff, Make it like glass. All that fun stuff. So if you're working with Element 3D, this is by far the best way to go about masking logos. That being said, when you're dealing with something like auto trace, you're going to get tiny little imperfections and blemishes and weird things that the points and the angle adjustments do that will give you terrible translation in terms of a 3D extrusion. Now, as I said, you don't need Element 3D in order for this to be good for you. No, let's save this. Let's just put that. Okay, cool. So we can actually ghost that right there. So there's our little emblem in Element 3D. Let's get rid of that. Put this up. Another thing you could use it for, it's a mask. Do mask stuff with it. You can put stuff behind it. You can make it its own transparency layer. You can do all this other stuff while also being able to completely adjust every single one of these elements. So if you select the mask here, let's turn off the paths, right? So now we just have the masks. Say you want to alter the shape of it. Just hit Control T. Oh, hey, look. Everything's moving together as long as it's selected together. You can rotate it, hit it, Control C. You can do anything you want with it. You could pair it with a null. You can make the null do things, and this will move around and scale and flip and dance. You want to make your logos dance? It's kind of the point, right? Just want to dance. That's it for today. Let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below, and I will answer them as soon as I possibly can. Other than that, please be sure to like and subscribe, and stick around. We'll have more videos for you in the future. Take care, everyone.